Board?
Yep. John and Matt, right? No.
It's John and Matt. It's kind of on the screen. Very good.
Oh, he's, want me to introduce you guys? All right. All right, thank you. None of you realize that you're going to get a technology comedy show when you came to a information security talk. Here we have Matt Hoy and John Stauffacher for their presentation. They're both principal consultants with Accuvant. The title of their talk is, Are You a Janitor or a Cleaner? And John wanted it to be known that he likes long walks on the beach and cuddling.
Good morning. Thank you. So basically, we're here to go ahead and talk about incident response. We'll make this move along pretty quick. He introduced us. There's our info. That's John. I'm Matt. And let's go ahead and move on. So why are we here today? Incident response basically represents less than 10% of the overall IT security budget. And we have basically had issues with reliance on automated detection. People don't know how to respond to incidents. They don't know who attacked them. They don't know how they were attacked. What we're going to go ahead and cover is basically the SANS visceral area, and we're going to talk about where we're failing in some of the areas of the life cycle. So, where do we fail? How do we move forward? So, we're going to go ahead and talk about two types of people who handle incident response. Are you a janitor, just mopping up messes and pretty much re-imaging the box or moving over to DR, or are you a cleaner? We go beyond just re-imaging a box. We go beyond doing other things. Which one are you? Hopefully we can help you. As I was speaking about the typical incident response life cycle, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it to John.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, yeah. There we go. So let's go through incident response. Our typical incident response life cycle, we're picking up with the preparation. That's kind of why we're all here, right? To get ideas on prep and how to withstand this. We go down to identification of the threat, hopefully containment, if we can. Eradication is a step that we always hope to get to, but too often it's just nuke and pave and walk on. And then recovery. And the last one, lessons learned, we're not doing. We're not taking that time to step through and figure out what just happened, why we just got owned, and how to fix it in the future. Too often we're too content to just move on to the next fire. Attacks also have a life cycle. Actually, this is a new slide. Cool. We don't have time in our business day to actually implement pickerel. What we're doing is we're going through, business has their issues. They want us to push product. They want to get customers. They want to make money. Attacks to them have become almost a certain business risk. And if the math doesn't add up, they don't see a point in putting any protection. We're leveraging the fact that it probably won't happen, or if it does happen, the cost to remediate is nowhere near the cost to actually do it right the first time. So how do we go through preparation? An idea is that any complex system out there is not built alone as a complex system. No one walks out one day and says, you know what, I want to invent the best ERP system known to man. Everything starts out as a simple system built upon and ultimately gets complex over time. We need to get down to simple grassroots, bare knuckles incident response. Not look to the heavens and say, hey, I want that one plan that's going to cover everything. Start with small systems, work your way into larger systems. So what's not working in preparation? We have no idea who our enemy is or what they're doing. We don't understand why they're coming after us. We don't take the time to really get to know what's happening. Rather, we take these attacks, we mitigate, we go on. But why are we being attacked? Why is it that every quote-unquote APT is now advanced and persistent? Let's go into our enemy. They've been able to amass an organizational structure that's much unlike corporations today. They have their own HR departments, they have accounting departments, they have development, they have operations. They are run as a streamlined machine that is out for one thing, profit, right? There's no reason for them to attack you to steal your data if they can't do anything with it. We've all heard about the major retail breaches so far. What are they pilfering? Stuff that's easy to get out, not going to be missed, and can rank high in the market. They have teams out there who are recruiting new people as they matriculate out. They have accounting departments that keep track of the money coming in and going out. They have marketing departments that market these wares once they have it. Having data is no good unless you have a place to sell it and a market to buy it. Their attacks are streamlined and efficient. They can re-roll an existing attack within minutes of detection to make it undetectable again. And we are failing at stopping this. We can have all the best devices in the world, but we're not stopping simple 1-byte, 2-byte modifications of existing payloads that evade our automated systems. Anybody recognize this? Raise your hand. Came out of Lockheed Martin. Yeah. All right, Dan Tentler's not here, so I can say it. This is a cyber kill chain. This is the attack life cycle from the attacker's point of view. We start out the reconnaissance phase. This is where they're looking at their targets, trying to figure out a way in, looking for that porthole to get in. Second stage is weaponized. They're developing their payloads, getting them ready. Just as we would in a pen test, your attacker's going through the same methodology. They deliver, they exploit, they install. Second to last one is a command and control. This is where they've owned you, and now they're exfiltrating your data. And then the last ones are acting on whatever objectives they have. The higher up on this chain that we can stop, the less successful the attack is going to be. Right now, we're right here. Actually, we're probably down here with our attack detection. They've already got their stuff and gone, and now we're detecting them. It's done. It's game over. And then we write nice letters out to our customers telling them how we value their security, but we didn't detect it till there. I wish people would say that. Monitor mode. I don't even need to show of hands to know if any of you have your IPS, your WAF, whatever you have in monitor mode, because I know probably the greatest number of the people in here do. We're not mall cops. We're not here to observe and report. How many of you sit here and look through your SIM logs every day, diligently detecting those new attacks? There was a recent retailer in Minneapolis who had 17,000 a day? 40,000 a day. I'm sure it was someone's job to go read through all of those. It could have been solved just by not using monitor mode, right? We buy machines to do a job, we should let them do their job. If the business has a reason why they can't put something in its enforcement mode, we need to work with the business to fix that. Not take this stupid, yeah, there you go. Not take monitor mode as a production operation environment. What is it doing for us? We spend $2 million on an IPS or a WAF or any of these systems to do what? To have it spit out more logs for us because we like reading that stuff? We really don't know how to, there we go. We don't understand how to hire. I pulled this out of a job description. This is just what we want someone to do or what we want them to have. There's what they're going to be doing. Can one person do all this effectively? Make coffee, change toner. If we're not hiring the right people, if we're not getting the right skill sets to sit down and read those logs that don't have everything else to do, how can we effectively have an incident response program? How can we effectively respond to anything? This person here is going to be busy just walking in from day one, let alone have any way of dealing with stuff that's not on this list, like being attacked. Anybody familiar with the Pareto principle? That 80% of your traffic comes from the top 20% of your sources? That doesn't apply to InfoSec. We can't say that we're getting attacked by the top 20% of our traffic. I've had executives quote this to me, and I just kind of looked at them and asked, Are you sure you know what you're saying? I don't think it means what you think it does. The other 80-20 rule I hear all the time is that as long as it's 80% secure, we're okay. As long as we get the top 80% of the vulnerabilities, we'll be fine. In my later slides, I'll tell you where we are now realized that APTs are the norm. So I'm telling you, if everything is an advanced persistent threat, where in the top 80% does that fit? But people recite these statistics. They tell us this all the time, and we take it, and we're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. 20% of our attack traffic, or 80% of our attack traffic comes from the top 20% of our bandwidth. Yes, that's a great. No, it's not. These two right here, they don't exist. We shouldn't let people tell us these things or tell us that they're going to be secure if they only cover 80% of what's out there. What happens when you get breached? Do you get a discount if you're 80% secure? Can you walk to your customers and tell them, I'm sorry I handed out your personal identifiable information, but I was 80% secure. It was just that 20% that they breached. We let the product drive. I love that one on the end there. I've had people telling me this when I worked for a software house. We had a glaring issue. It's like, fuck it, just ship it. We don't care. We'll take care of it later. We'll patch it when it's out. Marketing has a party planned. We need to make our dates. We've already reserved the ballroom. We can't delay it anymore. We laugh, but this happens. This is real for most of us in this room. We've had this at one point where the business has driven, the product has driven, and we sit back and we take it because we feel like we can't impede the business. Well, I'm sorry, a breach will impede business. Shelling out, $7-8 million because the product had to go out today is a lot worse than delaying it for a week and a half. We let politics drive a lot. The last one I love, I was working with a company and one of the guys told me, he's like, yeah, I only open up tickets I know I can close because those are the metrics that we're based on. Efficiencies, right? Anybody in here work under management where they drive efficiencies by how many tickets you can close? Does it work in the security space? Why? Because that's not the nature of our job, right? We're not in a situation where we should be measured by how many tickets we can open and close. Otherwise, you get thinking like this. Who wants to take on a project where you have to remediate a whole system that's going to take 6 months? That ticket's going to be open for 6 months. It's going to look bad on your report. Why would you want to take it? Give it to the new guy. Have him have fun with that. Spielberg comic is funny because it kind of explains how the thinking in business is today. Let's just blame the firewall. Let's blame the firewall guy. We don't actually know how to respond to incidents. UMD had 2 breaches. It was only after the second one that they decided to actually patch their stuff. But each time they breached, they sent a letter out to their constituents saying, we value your security. We value it enough that we're not going to fix it the second time. We'll wait till, or the first time, we'll wait till the second time, and then we'll think about fixing it. Internal Revenue Service, we had an IRS agent who had 2 laptops in his car on the front seat in Washington, D.C., one of the most crime-ridden areas. Both got popped. Each time the IRS said, hey, we value your security. Maricopa Community College District, this one was kind of interesting. They got popped once and then couldn't decide how to fix it. There was an issue inside politically about which group was responsible for fixing it. So rather than do the proactive thing and just get it done, they sat around for 2 years trying to figure out who was going to patch the box. All the while, they were sending out emails to their constituents saying, we value your security. It's top of our mind. This one was just very recent. And I laugh because right here, the safety and security of our guest payment information is top priority, yet their POS system was owned. And they're going to use knuckle draggers. What do you think that they're going to throw those carbons right in the trash can? You see that there's a theory about positioning, right? You make a move to make your enemy position himself in a way to get attacked again. Recently, we saw that with eBay. Everybody got this email to go change their eBay passwords, and then 3 days later, we realized that somebody has a root shell in the back of their servers. What happened? We went bump in the night. We got them to position themselves in a way that we could collect more data. perfect example right here. They think they're doing the right thing, but if they don't have the processes in place to keep their POS systems secure, how can we know that they're going to take that physical imprint and not throw it in the trash? Or what's worse is they take it back to a PC at the end of the night and they batch upload all of them. The same PC that's infected. Now, rather than spread across like Target and you have 3,000 POS systems, you only need one management PC at every location. You've positioned your enemy. You've used their own processes against them. This one I love. This retailer decided to throw a sale. We just got breached, lost all your payment information, now we're going to give you 10% off. Please come back to our store and use our stuff. So how do we change? Richard Fuller has an idea that you can't change by taking what's existing and adding on to it. You need to break the mold, come up with something new, and make that the new standard. That's what we need to do today. We need to take these processes of old, develop our new stuff, make it the standard. 65% of all companies in the DB Networks study had suffered SQL injection. 140 days to detect, 68 days to remediate, 208 days. This is 2/3 of a year that it took from the time that the breach happened till they remediated it. That means for that 2/3 of a year, your customer's PII was sitting out there available for anyone to take in. We need to cut that number down. So let's follow the money. We need to start attaching a real monetary value to everything with inside security. We don't do that today. We are very good at speaking to hyperbole. We're very good at telling stories. Unfortunately, executives only talk in dollars. They only understand dollars and the amount of effect on the bottom line. Marketing is able to get their parties and their promotions because they can tell stories and they can get the dollars. They can attach monetary value to everything they do. If we start doing that in security, we can start getting the funding we need to put in some of these processes. So it's kind of as simple as the cost of the solution versus the cost of an adverse event versus the cost of doing nothing. There is always a cost of doing nothing. Nothing is never free. Sitting back and letting things happen always has a cost associated. It may not be the cost of an adverse event, but there always is a cost associated. Luckily, we've got some help. So the Ponemon Institute and Symantec got together and they actually developed a website where you can go in, punch in your numbers, and get the dollars you need to go to your boss and say, look, based on these parameters, this is our risk. This is how much we are exposing ourselves if we get breached. And they give you a dollar number at the end of it. Throw in an Excel spreadsheet, throw some colors in there, make it red and green and yellow, and now you've got a story to give to others to get the funding you need. We need to learn how to respond appropriately. That top one is very important. Your customers aren't stupid. You can't start off your breach notification saying that you are totally committed to their security. We all know that if they were, that wouldn't have happened, right? Fall on your sword. As part of your IR team, you need someone there to handle your PR. Because you can't be telling your customers stuff like this. Otherwise, what are they going to say? They're going to read that, they're going to throw it away, and they're going to walk on. There's no honesty there. Also understand that everything is PII. Everything should be protected. If it hasn't been protected today, it probably will be tomorrow, and you're going to be behind the 8 ball again. Treat customer data like it's your own. I mean, honestly, when you're working on these applications, when you're working with all this information, think of yourself as being right there. If this were my information floating in here, would I feel safe? If the answer is no, then we've got issues. Let's stop calling them advanced. If advanced persistent threats are the norm, then they're not advanced. They're just persistent and annoying. But we're not doing anything to stop them. We have all these tools that we supposedly deployed to stop them, but as we'll see, generic approaches to mitigation failed because they're taking off-the-shelf components, making the 1 to 2 byte changes, and throwing them back at us, and we're sitting there going, oh my gosh, it's brand new, right? Remediation is not an optional step. Too often, we forget to actually do the remediation or even do the lessons learned. We're not learning from anything. We're nuking, paving, walking on. For the mere fact that something happened and there's a cause to it and there's something that within our process needs to change, we don't go through. Charles Rennick kind of summed it up in that our enemies are buying low and selling high. They're finding the cheapest thing off the shelf to come throw at us, make a few changes to it, reap the benefits, and get on. And we can't stop it. Something as trivial as the 1 to 2 byte change passing through us, and we're not doing anything to stop it. We're not allowing ourselves to do our jobs because we're either A, doing everything else under the sun, or B, our machines are in monitor mode, not helping us. So let's start working harder. Attack will succeed because we don't know where they're coming from, we don't know why they're happening, and we don't know who is behind it. We don't understand the nature of the attack. For us, we're in reactive rather than proactive. Too often I hear from companies that security has one job, but it seems like the rest of the company has another. We're not aligning our security goals. One thing that makes our attackers so deadly is the fact that they're all aligned for one goal: profit. There's no other reason for them to be doing what they're doing except to profit in some way. If we took that mindset and applied it to our business, where we are all aligned to one goal, and that's to actually make the company money and to be secure and not have to shell out, we can find that we can accomplish more with that single vision. Let's start getting serious about hiring. It's not a matter of just putting bodies in the seats because someone told us that we need to put bodies in the seats. We need to make sure that the people we're hiring don't have 20 other things to do during their day, including changing the printer toner. We need to focus on what we're hired to do. We need to grow our team. Our incident response team should be more than just people within IT. We need HR people. We need accounting people. We need people who can lend intelligence to the incident itself. We need to put the I back in team. It's right in the middle. As someone told me once, it's right in the a-hole. As often in security, we are grown to not be team players. We're grown not to play well with others, but we need to stop that mindset and go into these development teams, go into our product teams, and be an asset rather than a liability. We need to inject ourselves as a fixture within the organization to make sure that when we push stuff through, it's with our blessing and not just be the guy that everyone thinks says no. We need to be firmer. We need to be in focus on education rather than slapping of hands. Too often we're the ones that say, no, you can't do that, but we never offer the reason why. We never explain why. We think it's so blatantly honest and so blatantly clear why you should do something. The mere fact is a lot of people don't do this out of malice. They do it out of just not knowing. And we also need to start fighting back.
Thank you, John. So going back to where we came from, you have to go ahead and understand your attacker. Your attacker has no rules. They don't need change management. They can crash that server. And it's okay because they'll just reboot it for you anyways. In the case of Heartbleed, yeah, you could go ahead and get the key on final reboot. So, hey. But your attacker will not use checkboxes. They will not use audit. They have no rules, and they have no rules. So, in identification, we are relying too much on automated technology in the wrong sense, in the fact that let's look at all the logs. There's been no classification of data. We haven't actually tagged any of the assets, and nobody actually knows where the assets are within. So basically, how do we find out about this? Blacklists, pastebin, Krebs. So in identification, a lot of people don't realize this, but there are the 5 W's in defense, basically who, what, when, where, and why. So who is actually going ahead and attacking me? Is this a script kiddie? Is this hacktivism? Is this anything else? Or am I really facing a very strong adversary, state actor? What was targeted? This goes back to the classification of data, do you know where your server is? It's 2 a.m. in the morning. And basically, from then, you go ahead and you're going to ask, when did this happen? Because it's always going to happen in the most inconvenient time, during that product launch when nobody can actually go ahead and do anything about it. You don't get to choose when you go to battle. It just happens. And then the where and why. Where did they target? Once again, we hope that you're actually looking at the right places, because if you're not looking in the right places, I bet you your attacker is. So this is going to be different in the fact that most people in the reactive information handling area don't actually do the identification of who's attacking. You look at the log, that's a nice IP, but nobody actually goes ahead and bothers to take a red team approach to a blue team job. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and talk about determining the 5 W's. So I need to know who is attacking me, which is who. I need to know what their skill level is. And don't be afraid to go ahead and do the reconnaissance phase against your attacker. They're leaving you something behind. Often, we have overlooked things that can help us. Where are our actual physical assets? If we can go ahead and do that, we can go ahead and change them over to routing if they're in somewhere else that's important, and actually honeypot them. There's a good document that is open source for tracking called HoneyDocs. So if I were to go ahead and lose particular laced data, I can then find out where this file was opened. So you have to take advantage of the fact that it will be opened, and you need to go ahead and find out where that went. So I can judge the skill of an attacker based on how did this take place and where did this take place? Did they go ahead and pivot out? Do you have true defense in depth, and where they stopped? If I have a choke point, that's where I can go ahead and reroute them to get things like HoneyDocs. What devices are on the network to identify? And how many times have you actually spoken to the person who might have been the victim of the spear phishing attack? I don't see that done very much. I want to go ahead and know where this came from, and you need to go ahead and actually talk to people and be open about these things instead of penalizing people for doing these things. It's, please report this, let's go ahead and see. If you were attacked, it's very good to ask and work with people, because you have to establish a timeline. So tools that I use in the middle of an incident response, first I need the IPs. I will look that up. I will then go ahead and use OSINT to go ahead and do the same thing to my attacker that they have done to me. I don't have a problem doing that. I have their IPs. I will go ahead and figure out everything that I possibly can about the attacker, all the way from going through my own logs to possibly documenting everything and whatnot. I am not preaching DFIR here. This is all over the network, and this is, I've got to go ahead and react. Time is ticking down. So what do you do in the pickerel? You got to do containment. And what's not working is we'll just go ahead and unplug, reimage. That works great because you're not going to get hit again. Or, in worst cases, our production servers were compromised. We need to go ahead and stay up. Let's go ahead and throw it into DR, which probably has, if you had vulnerabilities in production, how many more are you going to go have in a DR, which probably isn't patched? It's happened. So In response to DDoS that happened, one of the video game companies said, we're just not coming back up. And that was a better move because they didn't have the bandwidth, they didn't have the resources, they knew it. They understood who their attacker was, and they understood, I cannot win this, so I might as well just stay down for a bit. That's not a bad position to take sometimes, because you may have to go ahead and figure out what else were they doing.
In response to a DR failover during an attack, realize that this is... Thank you. In response to a DR failover for attack, realize that this is a decision that's made throughout the business, that there was more than one person involved. And we hope that in these cases, a member of the security team would be involved in doing this. But we have to stand up and kind of put the red light on it, realize that whatever happened in production probably is 10 times worse in DR, and that failing over at that moment is probably not the best idea.
But it happens. So don't be afraid to go ahead and flush out your attacker. I need to go ahead and know what the capabilities of this guy is. If I find a phishing email, I have application logs. I can go ahead and create a script to go ahead and give me some pretty unique data as far as usernames and passwords. And I can go ahead and I start manually taking his phishing form, filling it out with this unique data, and look for it coming out the other side with my application logs. Then I can go ahead and script it and then send it even faster. What does this allow me to do? This allows me to assess the capability of my attacker. Is it human or is it a bot? Because I can bang all day long sending garbage, and if it just keeps spitting it right back out, it's a bot. If they start changing the way that they attack me and their behavior, oh, somebody's actually paying attention. So basically you need at least 50 pieces of info when you're doing this and about 200 for a script. So you basically need to go ahead and look for all that data. You want to look at the IP addresses with that unique data because that actually lets me know where they're coming from. Make sure you use the whole CIDR block because you may have to go ahead and block. Don't be afraid to go ahead and probe the attacker. I will go ahead and, as much as a mere ping has stopped an attack, I go ahead and nmap them. And it's amazing to see 92% of the time nobody's awake, nobody's responding. Sometimes when you go ahead and do that, wow, they stopped. And then you have to go ahead and wait and see if they come back. And that's the danger part, and that's why I said you need to go ahead and observe their activity and be prepared, because if they have enough, they can just go ahead and game over DDoS you, and nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to win at all. So there are ways to go ahead and deal with this, and this is the strike back part. You can either go direct with them, which is to find out their IRC channel right where they're playing it out, and log in with a familiar block. And it's like, I'm watching this attack play out in real time. This is interesting. I have gone ahead and gone to meat space, which is after taking a look at the attacker who wasn't very good and just was a nuisance, give him a call. Hey, I don't really want to play this game anymore, but I know who you are. So in one particular instance, if I can't be direct with the attacker, I'll actually go to his ISP or his host. And the problem is I've just found out that some hosts actually aren't that clean. So I give them a call. It's like, I have all these log records that I'm willing to go ahead and sanitize and provide you with to prove that this is actually happening. Can you help me? Well, what's the IP? Give them the IP. They pay me lots of money. I can't shut that down. I gave you logs that are proving that this is happening. Okay, call again. So did you change your mind? No, I can't do anything about that. All right, we're going to block your whole CIDR. Have a nice day. So the guy actually goes ahead and has the nuts to go ahead and call the VP and ask to be unblocked. Literally, he went all the way up to the CISO, and then I get called to the office. Hey, why are you blocking this? Because he straight out told me, and here's the email, that I'm not going to go ahead and do anything about this. So, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to actually try to go ahead and make things stop. In another case that I had to go ahead and deal with, an incident occurred where there is like intellectual property, like movie posters and whatnot, and those always get leaked. So I basically had only a single website, which was a forum, which basically this guy leaked stuff all the time. But we needed to go ahead and clear the company of the leak because we were being accused of, yeah, you guys had this artwork, why is it out there? First thing we had to do was actually prove that it wasn't us, and that was easy because of the watermarks. But then we decided we're going to go find out who did this. Went to the forums, started Googling, did full OSINT on this guy, literally found that he posted everything. Oh, what I have, an email address. Wrote the guy an email. I really like your forums. What I have back, a header on an email address. I know where you live. So the end result was we ended up creating a whole dossier on the guy, turned it over to legal, and they were like, oh my God, that's good stuff. And it's like, no, this is basically anything you can find on the internet. Welcome to open source intelligence. So we failed to go ahead and have lessons learned. We don't do the intelligence gathering. We don't create the dossiers. We don't actually use any of this threat intelligence that you don't even have to pay for. There is paid feeds. They work. But who better to know your organization's attacker than you? It basically will allow you to adjust specific rules for attacker skill sets, and you need to understand how they're doing this. One of the cool things that I've actually seen is Robert Rowley. He is IAMLay, and he was actually taking the data in from his WAF, and he was doing the weaponizing your WAF, which is as soon as I see somebody keep banging on me, I score them, I weight them, and I make them go away based on the automated response that I actually got from the WAF. So you should be building profiles on your attackers. You should be actually understanding what's normal for your network, but a lot of people don't. So in lessons learned, wow, we've done post-mortem. We finally got all the boxes up. We think we're clean. We think we're clear. What happens at report? A circular file bin or something logged. So it doesn't really solve the issue if you don't address the issue. This is where you have to actually have the stakeholders that John was speaking about. You need to go ahead and make sure that everything's lined up. So once again, on the lessons learned, threat intelligence, do you really have to pay for it when your organization already has it? You should be rolling these things and re-rolling these for your attacker to go ahead and make sure that anything they're using against you, you're ready for. You already have all the data that you need, so did you establish the timeline? Do you go back to the 5 W's, because you must answer those questions to actually effectively address your attacker? And did you actually go ahead and take the time and replay any of the capture traffic during that time that you're under attack. A lot of people don't even bother to go ahead and do that. You can actually go ahead and glean much more information by actually doing a net flow and traffic analysis, which is never really done. And those need to be addressed. So that is our talk. We are out of time. It would have been longer, but we had technical difficulties. But thank you. We'll take a few questions. Questions?
Guy in the green.
Yes.
Yes, as the man pointed out, buying your coworkers food will always get them on your side. And beer. Food and beer. Well, and that's kind of what we want to bring in, is that developing that relationship between the security side of the house and everybody else is what's going to push your methods forward. It's something that as a group we tend to back off from, but it leaves other people wondering, what it is that they do, or you always hear, oh, well, that guy always says no. It's because we don't build those relationships with our peers and the other groups to be able to come in and educate as well as help when we need to.
Basically, answer is no. But you actually go ahead and tell them why. Most people actually fail to go ahead and give them a why. I've figured out that giving them lunch is good, but explaining why I did this, then they don't do it. But the problem is nobody bothers to pay attention to those things. Any other last question? Yes.
Practice. Traffic reflect. So as you're in. Yeah. So the question was, what do we use NetFlow for? For a lot of us, it's a tool after the fact when you're going through your lessons learned, your postmortem, replaying that traffic, understanding what happened, but then as you're updating your systems, as you're updating your FireEye device or whatever you have, your firewall, replaying that traffic back through it to make sure that your updates actually work.
Because I might have missed something in the law.
A lot of times we have great ideas of how we can stop stuff, we put it in play, but if the attack isn't happening at that moment, we are only left as our best educated guess as to what happened.
What happened? Well, you have DVR. Are you going to actually look at it?
As Matt said, threat feeds are awesome. They are the new hot thing. Unfortunately, none of them are tailored to your specific way your business runs. The best source of intelligence about threats that are pertinent to your business is right within your own gear. You have it, make sure it's shipped up the way it should be, and then use that as a tool to build your own defenses on.